ScienceWorks Online. First, let us tell you a little bit about ScienceWorks, in case you haven't been to visit us in Oregon. ScienceWorks is a hands-on museum with lots of fun exhibits that help people of all ages learn about science. With us being online, we thought it would be a great way to connect with students and families all over the world. We have a lot of exciting demonstrations and experiments in store for you in the coming weeks. We'll also bring in science experts to talk about their fields and answer any questions. Before we begin our facilitation, let's hear some exciting news from Maya.
Hello Ash, it's me Maya again with another fun piece of science news. In Brazil, there has been a lot of deforestation with recent farming expansion and forest fires, but that does not mean the Amazon will continue to shrink. Tapirs are the largest mammal in the Amazon and one of my favorite mammals in general. This is what the tapir looks like, and it is very shy and sweet in its nature. Due to their size, they do not digest things all of the way. For example, seeds do not fully decompose in the tapir's stomach. Tapirs leave behind very large scat piles that can be the same size as a grown adult's head, with an example here. These scat piles act as seed bombs in the Amazon rainforest. This lovable animal could be the key to saving the rainforest, and we should be thankful for its unique ability. For my second piece of science news, scientists have discovered a new type of deep sea worm with a very flashy sense of style. These worms were found scattered across the Pacific coast with sightings in Monterey, the Gulf of California, and Costa Rica. The sea worms are iridescent and brightly colored, giving it the name the Elvis worm after the king of rock, Elvis Presley. And here is the worm right here. They are closely related to another sea worm that looks extremely similar with rainbow sparkled scales of a bluish hue. And this is an example of that sea worm here. The Elvis worm has a gold and pink iridescent color scheme, and this deviation in its DNA confirmed it to be a separate species. We all know about Elvis's flashy, sparkly performing costumes, and this spirit will live on with the legacy of the Elvis worm. So back to you, Ash, with some more fun science activities. Hello Ash, it's me Maya again with another fun.
Ready.
That was really cool seeing Maya telling us about those new developments in the natural world. What I'm wondering today is, has anyone ever wanted to hold a rainbow in their hand? Or have you ever wondered what stars are made of? If you were watching Colin's presentation on Tuesday talking about the ISS, you might have heard him talking a little bit about spectroscopy. And spectroscope is a device that scientists use to be able to analyze the chemical makeup of visible light sources. And we are able to learn a lot about stars in particular, but you can learn about any visible light source. So I'm going to show you how to make your own spectroscope and do some experiments at home with it. So when you look at this CD, you can notice we have some really cool rainbow patterns on it. And that's because the way that information is recorded on a CD, there's these microscopic little pits in a spiral on the surface of the CD, and they kind of form lines, and that is where the information on the CD is encoded. So this acts as a diffraction grating. So when light moves across the CD's surface, it is going to hit those pits, and each of the little wavelengths of light are going to kind of bend at a different angle when it hits those CD surfaces. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little device from just some basic stuff you might have around the house, and you can see the different colors that different light sources make up, you can actually analyze them to see what their chemical makeup is. So I want to show you what materials you'll need for this project. You're going to need a box or a paper towel roll, and I made a few different spectroscopes, so we'll show you those later, but the paper towel roll turned out pretty well. You're going to need some scissors, a pencil. I used an X-Acto knife, so be sure that your adult doesn't mind you using an X-Acto knife, or you can just use scissors. You might need to use some aluminum foil, you might not. You'll need some clear tape, and I used some masking tape too, and I also used a protractor. If you don't have a protractor at home, you can print out a protractor template. And what you can do is, I wanted a 40-degree angle for my protractor, so I just used my protractor to get a 40-degree angle on a piece of index card, and I'm gonna just kind of use it that way. Oh. Actually, you know what? Since this is a tube, we don't even have to worry about angles. So that's even better. But if you use this on a box, you are going to want to have a template at about a 40-degree angle. We're going to show you something even easier because we're going to use a tube. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use my X-Acto knife to start off where I want to cut. Then I'm gonna go in with my scissors, and I'm just kind of gonna cut sort of a arch shape into my tube with the scissors. This is gonna be where I'm gonna put my CD. I'm left-handed, so there's always like a little bit of extra fun whenever I'm cutting or using scissors, because as you can tell, I'm using right-handed scissors. So there we go. We've got just a little arch. I'm gonna take my CD and I'm gonna insert it into the arch, and you want your shiny side to be pointing down. So it's going to look like this when you have it ready. Next, we're going to do a couple of things. So in order to let our light really spread out, we need to do two things to our spectroscope, which is we need to close off the ends, and then we need to make a really narrow slit in one end, because that slit is going to make the light appear to be, it's going to kind of pass through in basically parallel lines. So I'm just going to kind of trace around my tube. And we're going to cut out a couple of squares, which I am going to put on the ends. I used just some heavy paper for this. You can use whatever, cardstock, any paper that's a little bit heavy so the light won't go through. If you watched our how-to when we made a kaleidoscope, we did want to leave one end of our kaleidoscope able to have light pass through. For this, I don't want to have light passing through this side. So I'm going to do just kind of a little quick example of how we're going to tack this on here with some tape. And then I'll show you one that is made just a little bit, took a little bit more time on it. But this is a pretty quick build. And if you play around with your homemade spectroscope and you get really into spectroscopy and want to see what other cool chemical emissions we can see in different kind of lights. There is a link that Chris is going to put up later, not yet, but it's going to take you to a place called Public Labs that has some really cool spectroscopy projects, and it has diffraction grading, which is going to do the same thing as RCD, but it also has a really cool little printable little do-it-yourself spectroscope that is a little less homemade looking than this one. So you can check that out if you're interested. But I kind of like the homemade ones because they're fun to make, and I just really like tinkering, so I like making stuff around the house and seeing what I can do with it. And then iterating on it and improving it. So in a little bit, I'm going to show you a lot of different versions of this that I have played around with and have talked other people into making and playing around with. So they're fun, they're easy to make, and in a minute I'm going to show you something really cool with them. So now we have both ends of our tube covered up with the paper, and we need to make a narrow slit in this end here. And the reason why we need to make it a little slit, remember, we want the light to pass through just very, very narrowly. And yes, Heather, if you have a bunch of old CDs lying around the house, maybe you have some blank ones that somebody got and never recorded on, this is a great way to reuse those materials. You can also do this with a DVD, but CDs work a lot better. And that is, I think, because of the way that the information on them is compressed. I think it just is done a little bit differently on the CD. So I can see I have cut a little narrow slit in my paper. I'm actually going to make it a little bit narrower with a little bit of tape, or you can use foil if you'd rather. So now it is super narrow. And I also didn't make it very, very wide because I'm trying to not let tons of light in here. So, scientists, do you notice there's a problem right now? We have our slit so the light can come through, but we've blocked off everything, so we need to make a little viewing window. And so where we're going to make our window is going to be right here. And I'm actually going to just get it started, and then I'm going to move to a finished one, but this really won't take that long, to be honest. So I'm not giving you actual dimensions really at all on this project because that is going to heavily depend on what you are using for your box or your tube. The size of your box or tube is going to determine where you're going to place your viewing window and your cuts and everything. So you can see I'm kind of just placing my viewing window kind of at the base of the CD, and I want to make it long enough that I can see the reflected spectra, and I'm going to show you what that is. But here we see the finished kind of quick spectroscope build, and now I'm going to switch to one that is pre-built, and we're going to turn on a flashlight and a lamp, and we're going to see what we can notice about those two different light sources. So this isn't a colored flashlight, it's just a white bulb, And the lamp light is also a white bulb. So scientists, what do you predict is going to be the spectrum of light that we're going to see? Are we going to see white? Are we going to see a whole rainbow of colors? Or could we see something else? So think about what you predict. Heather was wondering if this would work if the CD was scratched. And I can tell you from trial and error, the smoother your CD surface is, it's gonna work a little nicer. So be careful when you're sticking your CD in there. You don't want to smudge it up any more than you can help. So first, let's look at the spectra of the flashlight. And this is a flashlight with an incandescent bulb. So that's the old type of light bulbs that have a little metal wire. And that metal wire is made of a metal called tungsten. And we're gonna look as I angle this to try to show you the spectra. We practiced this and practiced this, but still a little tricky to find the right angle so that the camera can pick this up. Okay, so if you look into the viewing window of our CD, just look into that window and you should be able to see a kind of a rainbow of lights. Do you guys see like pretty much a full rainbow, mostly red, blue, and green? I think you can see it pretty well now. So that, what you're seeing on the inside of the viewing window now is the spectra, the specific emission of the chemicals that are, it's gases being heated up inside the flashlight. And like we said, it's a tungsten filament, and we should be seeing pretty much a full spectrum, which looks like this. I took a picture of it just in case we had a problem. So we pretty much saw, similar to this, a full spectrum of light. And now let's look at what's going to be happening when we look at the lamp. And I'm going to tell you that the lamp has a different bulb. So the lamp has a fluorescent bulb. So do you predict that we're going to see the same colors and the same spectra, or do you think it'll be different? Make that prediction in your heads, scientists. Now we'll see what we actually are going to see. So as I angle the light, you might be noticing we are seeing some different colors and different spectra because this fluorescent light has different chemicals that are being heated up inside the bulb. And fluorescent lights contain mercury. So one thing that we can look at later is we can look at some bands that show us different chemical spectra. We can see what the mercury band looks like. So this is going to be a little bit different when you look at it at home. But hopefully that was enough to give you an idea that when you look at different light sources, you're going to be able to see different things. And you should never ever look directly at the sun through one of these. That would be really bad for your eyes. But you can look at like clouds and sky. You can look at all different kinds of lights, birthday candles, if your adult allows you to light them with them. You can look at street lights at night. You can see if the yellow sodium lights look different from the blue street lights. And you can look at your cell phone screen or your TV screen. So One thing you can do is you can also, I went online and I just looked for an example of spectra of different chemicals. Sorry, there's kind of a glare on there. But yeah, I'll put it down like this. So if you look here, when we're looking at the mercury line in our spectroscope, we could see that we had a lot of green. I saw that. I saw some yellow bands. So we can compare what you actually see in real life to what you can find. If you go to public labs, you can find different examples of spectral emissions. And the last thing I want to show you is just some of the different spectroscopes we made, because we made a lot. So you can make these as big as you want. You can see we've got our viewing window. We've got our slit. We put the tin foil to make this a little bit narrower. You can make them from a long square box, like a cracker box. You can make them from a tube. You can make a little short box, like a soap box. You've got a viewing window, you've got a slit. And this is the public labs version. And what's really cool about that one is they have a template for you, so you just print it out on a piece of cardstock and you just fold it. And it also has some little has some information on the back about how to use it. So Chris is gonna throw up a couple of fun links for you. And what's really fun at public labs is they have what's called the spectral workbench. So you can go look at other people's spectra analysis and see what they're taking pictures of. There's been a project where people are photographing the emissions from factories. And so it's helpful to analyze if factories are, what kind of chemicals factories are putting out into the environment. So these have a really important use, not only for astronomy, learning more about stars, how hot they are, how far they are, where they're moving, and what they're made of, but they're also super important for learning more about our environment here on Earth. So I hope you guys will have fun playing with your spectroscopes and trying it with all kinds of different stuff. Remember, you really, for safety's sake, never look directly at the sun, never point it directly at the sun, but you can have a lot of fun with it. So until next week, I hope you guys will have fun. Send us any pictures of spectroscopes you make, and we'll see you next week. So stay curious. Well, that was fun. We hope you enjoyed it. We always like to see your hacks and your projects, so send those to us. You can email them to online@scienceworksmuseum.org, or if you post your project on social media, tag us, #ScienceWorksOnline. Don't forget to tune in next week at 2 p.m. Pacific time for another episode. And until then, have fun and stay curious.